Hey, what's going on, everybody? Knowledge coming at you again. I'm sure everybody's heard about the Connecticut shooting. I believe it was 27 people who, shot. 18 of them were little kids and everything. It's a sad situation. It's highlight news all across America, all across the world. It was crazy. You know, um, but it's a shame that you got crazy ass people, demented people, however you want to twist it or turn it, that will go into a school and not only shoot their mother but shoot a whole bunch of little kids. And this is the type of stuff that makes you think about bringing children into the world, because you got pedophiles out here, you got priests and pastors touching the kids, you got people shooting people just for random reasons and shit, and it's crazy, and it really makes you think about bringing a child into this world. Now I've been listening to a lot of my subscribers and people who I'm subscribed to, videos on it. A lot of people pretty much thought it was fucked up, but I don't want to hear this shit about, oh, he was mentally deranged and shit. Every time somebody goes somewhere and shoot up a large amount of people and it's like a massacre, all of a sudden they're considered mentally deranged. They had a problem. What about just evil? What about just a part of Satan? When that Batman Joker walked in there and shot up everybody in the movie, they said he was crazy and deranged and shit. And I think we need to get away from that. You just got some people who are just evil. They got things going on in their life and they don't know how to control, and they just want to mess everybody else's life up. Their life is trash, so they want to kill everybody else and make everybody else's life a living hell. You have people in the world like that. Everybody who does massacres like this or just randomly shoots people, it's not always because they're crazy. A lot of it is just they're just evil, point blank, period. So I think we need to really get away from that shit right there. Because it's just we got to stop. Covering it up. With oh, they were insane or they were crazy. Now on to the next thing I want to talk about. I was listening to Harvey Superboy. Listen to him quite often. And he got a little debate going on with this guy called the Truth or whatever. Now I never heard this guy. I never watched. I might have watched his videos maybe about a year ago, but I don't really check him out too much. But basically Harvey was saying that you know the media, they don't make nationwide news with situations that happen with us black folks in this country. It's always kind of swept under the rug unless it's something like a Trayvon Martin or something like that. And he basically was just saying you know black folks don't get the same treatment here in America when things like this happen. Obama doesn't make a speech. Obama doesn't, sit up there and cry like he was crying, for this massacre here. And then, the truth guy came back and saying, he was wrong and he was, I believe Harvey had made a statement saying that it's like karma, not karma for I guess the kids, but karma just for white people, America in general. I'm sorry if I'm miscrewing it in a different way, but that's what I got from it. Another guy got mad about it and everything, and it is what it is. But the way I look at it, I see where Harvey's coming from, because I remember when Trayvon Martin got shot. They had to damn near hunt President Obama down. And then when they did get him, he was like, "Oh well, we're gonna let the investigators, investigate the crime," and then he made some bullshit comment like, "Oh well, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin." Of course, it looked like your monkey ass. You black motherfucker. Who else you think he'd look like? Elvis Presley? But it's like we didn't get the same reaction when things happen to black folks here in this country. it's kind of it's swept under the rug, or it's like, oh, well, yes, it's sad, but it's not really that big of a deal. But you let a little white girl come up missing somewhere, or a whole bunch of white people get shot up or something like that. This nationwide news is all across the world. So I get where he's coming from. Now on the other end of that, you got to remember that these were kids that got killed. When we come into this world, you can think back to when you're a kid, or when we all were children. We don't come into this world with racism in our heart, with prejudice in our heart, with just hateful, demonistic thoughts and shit. We don't come into this world like that. That's why they say kids are innocent. And what happens is that through our life and through our parents and through our family, these type of racist thoughts and prejudice and all the other bullshit that comes along with just being a human here in the world, it gets fed into us, and it starts developing to us. Little kids are not racist. I can remember, shit, as long as you got the new Ninja Turtle or the new Power Ranger got a bag full of candy, everybody was your friend. It didn't matter whether you was black, white, blue, green, or purple. That's how kids are. Hey, they got something in common. They gonna play with each other. Hey, we friends. That's how it is. But it's like when we get older, you start experiencing things, and that's when all the racist shit comes into play, and then you have people doing all this crazy shit out here. But you know, kids are innocent, and for a jackass to go in there and just shoot up a whole bunch of, not only shoot his mother, but go in there and shoot up a whole bunch of kids, that was wrong. I don't think that's karma for anybody. I don't think we need to even put racism in it. That's just a fucked up situation. That's just some demonistic shit that somebody needs to pay for. And for y'all don't know, the asshole shot himself, which he should have shot himself, and it was gonna nail his ass to the cross. But like I said, these are innocent kids. It's a sad situation. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if I had a child somewhere and some asshole came in and shot up the whole classroom and killed my child. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, my condolences go out to everybody who lost somebody, lost a child or whatever. That's nobody wants to bury their kids, but like I said, I think this same type of treatment and this same type of broadcast and this same type of emergency effort needs to be put towards everybody, not just when white kids, something happened to white kids, or a white person in the media, something like that. I think it needs to be for everybody. We can't say this is America and united we stand and all that shit, but there's special treatment for certain ethnicities. What I mean? I got to keep it real on that. What I mean? Hey, Obama, he ran away from the situation. We just had a young brother, Jordan Davis, get gunned down, for some bullshit. And where was Obama then? Was he crying in? Was it this big outrage? Was it all these, YouTube videos and stuff, except for, the few of us that actually give a damn? People might talk about it, chit chat about it. They don't really give a damn about situations like that, or their own people getting shot up in the community. Some people out here actually glorify having the murder capital. Oh, I'm from Detroit. I'm from Chi-Town. We the murder capital. Some people actually take pride in that. So, I mean, I think it's all bullshit, and it was a sad situation, but this type of treatment needs to be put upon everybody, not just for certain people who, white or whatever you want to call it. But that's all I got to say. Y'all comment, subscribe, or whatever. Check out my other page, Real Talk with Knowledge. And that's it, but goddamn, y'all gotta stop this bullshit with y'all crazy ass motherfuckers out there. Y'all gotta stop this shit. You wanna kill yourself and be done with it. Don't go out and murder everybody else because your life is fucked up. But I'm out, y'all. Peace.